Okay. I'd like to call the July 17th Personnel Committee meeting to order. Dana, could you take roll call?
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Alderman Holfer.
Here.
Dale Weichel.
Here.
Tom Trainer.
Here.
Richard Budney is absent. Frank Presco.
Here.
Sarah Lynn Emmons.
Stand for pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two kind of new members. Alderman Hassan, is that the right way to pronounce it? Yes. Okay. You want to tell us, everybody, a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my full name is Yusuf Hassan. I'm a retired pharmacist. I've been living in the city of Franklin for the past 17 years plus. We have 6 children. 2 of my children live in Franklin also. They're all married with families, and I look forward to serving the city of Franklin.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tom, you want to, I know we did that last time, but for the other 2 new people.
Oh, okay. I am Tom Trainer, and I live in the city of Franklin for the past 9 years. I'm an occupational health nurse, and I was a risk manager for the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District up until retirement. I have 2 children, one of which lives in town, and the other one lives in North Carolina. That's pretty much me.
And I've met you before, but I'm Dana. I've been here for 17 and a half years.
Kelly Hirsch, City Director of Administration. I have been here for 2.5 months, I think. Well, not even 2 months and probably a week. And I have lived in Franklin since 2016 with my family. I have 4 kids, husband, and pets.
Dale Weichel lived in Franklin for 40 years, retired, but was an insurance agent.
Ed Hofer, 1st District Alderman, been in Franklin since 1981. Active in all kinds of things. That's it.
Sarah Lynn, I bought my first home here in Franklin in 2021, and I'm a human resources manager for a private manufacturer south of here.
I'm Alderman Mike Barber. I've lived here for 32 years. Been involved with government since 2006. I had one career with Harley Davidson for 18 years, and then another career for Milwaukee County for 18 years. And this is my 3rd career.
Hi, I'm Frank Presco. I've lived in Franklin since about 1973. I live with my husband here, and we have 3 children, 7 grandchildren. Been in human resources management about 40. My last job, which I retired from at TSA, the airport in Milwaukee, I was assistant federal security director.
Thank you. Item 3, citizen comment period. Is there any citizens that would like to? That ends that. Item 4, approval of the minutes from 6/19/23.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of 6/19/23. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, election of officers. Dana, didn't you usually kind of handle that?
It happened?
Well, what we've done is nominate president, chairman, and vice chairman, and then vote on it. So is there any motion to nominate a chairman?
I'd like to nominate Barber.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other motions? Hearing none, close the nomination for officers. Vice chairman, any nomination?
Don't you usually vote on the chair before you,
What's that?
don't you usually vote on the chair one before you do the other nomination?
Well, one after another.
Are the nominations closed?
Pardon?
Are the nominations closed? Did we close the nominations?
For president, chairman,
Yeah,
right.
close them. Because I wanted to ask you if you wanted to continue.
Yeah, I didn't know you want, yeah, I will continue. So you're making a
I
motion?
might
I
make a
would make
motion.
that
I
motion.
nominate you then.
Is there a, Alderman Holmgren?
Second.
Okay. Well, let's vote on the chairman then. Any other discussion or comments? All in favor of Alderman Barber for chairman?
He nominated you.
Both of us,
Or two chairmen?
each two, right?
Oh,
So one or the other.
okay.
Do it on paper, or
Pardon?
do you want to do it on paper?
Okay.
All in favor of Alderman Barber?
Aye.
Aye.
3. Okay, all in favor of me?
Aye.
Okay.
3-3. I don't,
A revote?
Would you consider possibility of you, Mike, being chair and you or Mike being vice chair?
We are
okay,
now.
say
We
it
are
again.
now. That's what it is.
Could you repeat that?
What I was wondering was, could we at least discuss or vote on the fact of you and Mike being chair and vice chair, which you are present?
That's the way it's been. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Could we take a vote on that by chance?
You're saying vote
Switch
for
it.
vice chairman?
No. Voting you as chair and Mike as vice chair. Seeing how we have a 3-3 tie, I'm suggesting that we keep things as is, with you being chair and Mike being vice chair. We vote on that.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we keep Dale Weichel as chair and Mike Barber as vice chair.
I second
Okay.
that.
You seconded it?
Yes.
Okay. So we're clear, I would be chairman,
Correct.
Alderman Barber would be vice chair. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, adjustment of sick leave and holiday benefits for the fire battalion chiefs to more closely align with benefit changes for the fire union member.
This is just complete cleanup from prior fire negotiations. During the negotiations, when we adjusted the union benefits, we had made comments, excuse me, in both of these negotiations that this would also eventually apply to the battalion chiefs. That change never occurred. So we would like to get this cleaned up before we go back into the next fire negotiations later this fall. So it would basically be reducing their sick leave benefits accrual by 1/2 because they don't work the same number of employees that they don't work the same number of days that the other non-rep employees work. And we would not be taking away any holidays from the battalion chiefs, but they would be required to be paid out for the first 3 holidays every year. That would help to reduce overtime.
In what way? In what way does it help?
Because they wouldn't need to be off of work so you don't have to bring somebody back in to fill their shift.
So they would just be paid a day's pay for that
Correct.
instead of paying somebody overtime
Yes.
for their.
So it would be 3 days each for each of the 3 battalion chiefs, so it would save us 9 days in overtime. Doesn't sound like a lot for the battalion chiefs, but we're trying to just do equal parity with the union folks. And I think when we changed it for the union, if I remember right, we saved about 117 days worth of overtime. So that was a substantial amount.
So now they would still get 12 days?
They would still get 14 days of holidays. Same that they get now, but they would sell out 3 of them, and the other 11 they could either take or they could get paid out for. It would be their option.
So 11 would be optional, 3 would be mandatory payout.
Correct. Which is what it is for the union folks.
And it's all at straight time.
Yes. Yep.
I just a question for clarification. It's not a negative, but I'm just curious. So some of this goes back at least 2 negotiations, and I'm just curious why it wasn't done sooner.
That I can't tell you. I just know it hasn't been done and it needs to be cleaned up.
It would seem to be in my mind when we do one thing and it has a cascading effect to the other parts, we would want to take care of that.
Yep.
So I didn't know if there was any underlying concern.
And the sick leave part of it is probably not a big deal at all for the current battalion chiefs. They have all been here for quite some time. They have huge sick leave balances. There will be no negative impact on them whatsoever. It's just correcting it for future people in that position.
And without going through the contract, is there a cap on sick days paid out when retired?
Yes, 2 days per year of service.
Thank you.
Move to adjust.
Second.
Motion made to adjust the wording and seconded. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, strategy for updating class and comp study.
Well, we are going to table a deep discussion with this because we haven't gotten a chance to get the department heads together yet. And we did want to dive into that a little bit deeper and give a little bit more time as a group to talk about what we're looking to do. But we did get a quote for a portion of updating it. And it looks like it's just under $20,000 to do salary and benefits survey, then an analysis, and it would basically be compensation specific. I don't even know. I don't really seem like they would be looking at too much more.
No, they wouldn't be doing any of the classification part of it. They would only be doing the
Right.
compensation study.
Well, if we're gonna do that, we have to have comparables from other cities.
Right.
Second thing is, before we came out with a comp study, I don't know how many years ago, we went to the Common Council and mayor and said, just where do you want us to be compensation-wise compared to other cities? So, since there's new administration, thinking that, that probably should be done again because this is all based on that, really, quite a bit. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, we wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to decide on if I wanted to keep the rate the same or change it until I knew what the financial impact was. I mean, my preference would be to stay in that range. I think it's the rate needs to
Talk
be
about the
in.
65th percentile.
Yeah. But you need to know do that, what's going to be the cost and where the money would come from. I guess my question was along your lines, as long as that's all they're looking at is the benefits and compensation, I don't see any reason to hold it up. I mean, what are the department heads going to add to that portion of it?
I think that there is some job description cleanup that several departments have mentioned they would like to do. I know the clerk's office doesn't agree with their job descriptions for every position. I've got Amy shaking her head. So you've got the Department of Inspection, Planning. So there's a couple, if not more than that exist where they want to go through and make sure that the job descriptions fit what the job is now.
Can it be congruent with the?
Yeah, done at the same time as getting the quote.
Who did we have our quote from?
GovHR.
They're the group that did it the last time.
Was there a need to send out an RFP?
I don't think there's any requirement that we have to. It depends on how big of a scope of project we want it to be.
I think the scope, considering that the last adjustment was done in 2015, and I pulled up the cost of living adjustments, 2015 was a 0.0 cost of living adjustment. In 2022, 8.7, and July 2023 is 8.9. So it's going to be big. So I'm not sure if when we discuss with Common Council, if we preface this action as having a much larger result than what I think 2015 shows currently. It's going to be a significant market change just based on, and cost of living adjustments are the smallest ranges in inflation. So.
And we're currently in preliminary budget time, so this would be the time.
Yeah, it needs to get in front of the budget so that if we can't even make cost of living adjustment, that we have max.
Which comes first, the compensation study or the cap? The budget study, budget.
I think they can be done at the same time.
Yeah.
Because no matter what the compensation study is going to show, you're going to have a budget. I don't think we're going to be able to match a compensation study with a budget.
Well, there's been raises since 2015.
And we always look at the comparables when we do raises, where we compare. So we've been maybe just a little bit behind what the comparables are, but we've been close.
The last 3 years has been raising wages like astronomically. So.
Well, I think we have to be fair and equitable by the focus on our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we also have to factor turnover. So when they're doing that comp, they're going to look at turnover for our comparables as well.
I doubt that would be part of it.
I mean, it'd be nice to see where we stand with the people that we feel we're equal with.
Dana, when you do exits, do you get survey information on reasons for resignation or any of that data that can be included?
Yeah, to some degree. In fact, when we get to the Department of Administration, I do have a sheet here of all of our terminations in the last 5 years or so. A little bit of a breakdown on reasons.
So I moved the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Till what time?
Till months from now. That still puts us outside the budget window.
I don't see any way that it's going to be done before the budget cycle because according to this, just doing the compensation part of it, don't even touch the classification part with job structure changes. I think they said it would take at least 90 days.
So if we said 120, months. So
They have 11 weeks or from start to finish.
3 months.
Maybe
So
the
just-
3 months.
It would take them several weeks to get started, so you're looking over 3 months. Or
And that should be enough time for the departments themselves to come up with their reclassifications. Doing that is also going to, because you're talking people who don't have the correct amount of work assigned to their job description, meaning they have more responsibilities than what they're compensated for. That action is also going to increase their, I mean,
Go ahead.
that's okay.
To me, it'd be nice to put it into effect on January 1st. I mean, sure. January 8th.
Put it in the 2024 budget.
I do have one question about this. You know, when this was done 8 years ago, and I realize there could be some new people, everybody was given a chance to review the job description. And if they felt there was something inaccurate about it, they could, you know, request more or less a hearing.
We've had changes in positions, we've got new department heads,
There's a lot. that has
workload
changed.
changes
Yeah.
in over 8 years.
You know,
I mean, I get that, I just don't want to put it off.
No, I'm understanding what you're saying. I agree, that's good.
I don't think individuals in 2015 would have also been so quick to come to the table of I need more money, because that's not the labor market that we had in 2015. Now you have the workforce can demand more of employers, so
Yeah.
that dynamic has shifted,
They
and that's
are. Yeah, recently they're giving $10,000 sign-up bonuses at City of Mequon
What's that?
select position. I know, right? And I think, what was it? Oak Creek was doing 7,500.
that's just getting your foot in the door too. That's, I'm sure they have retention metrics to hit before they get that paid out, but it's also competitively, those retention metrics are shorter and shorter and shorter, and then they still just leave after they get their big payout.
I think we have to be very, very careful reviewing this, sure that we have all our ducks. And again, very cognizant of price on them.
It's big if we don't really take a look at it.
Are you going to see others of HR?
Who did you call?
HR is the other.
Oh, I thought you had called another one, or is it just based off of last year, or not last year, the last time that you had contacted who didn't have capacity?
Yeah, another one last time did capacity.
Maybe reach out to them and see what they have in terms of they are able to match what GovHR is proposing.
So if we say we lose the rest of July and August to start ducks in order, have someone work on it October 1st, that would give them 3 months to finalize. We're going to recommend that something as far as the timeline.
I think you gotta be very careful, like Tom said, with this. Unless you know everything, all the comparables. Our health insurance might be very good compared to some of these other cities. So if we, change one thing and disregard all the other things, we could be way overpaying. So, I agree with taking some time on this, and getting the comparables of what other cities are getting. Because I have never seen a city be the top of everything. And if they are, their taxes are sky high. So, all right, do you care to change your?
No, just to make them timeline, a tentative timeline for the
That's
first of the
that's
year,
what you're changing.
with a bring back for the first meeting in January.
I think January is a great start. It's the beginning of the year, and to annualize it from that point forward, yes. This also gives some breathing room for whoever is going to be studying. And we're gonna need that before the next.
GovHR or
I don't know, it depends if the committee wants to make that decision at the next.
Well, I would think they already have our background. We've worked with them on multiple things in the past. Unless anticipating saving a substantial sum on the updated survey, would feel comfortable going with. And I'm usually a bid person. I don't think, what was the total amount again?
20, wasn't
20?
it?
Yeah,
Just under 20.
2008 estimate.
Yes, I mean, I don't think,
time is on our side on something there, so.
Okay, so are we moving forward with GovHR, and then we are looking at having something that we would be implementing January? Okay. Want to make sure that we are.
Okay, so the motion is to table it until January meeting. And
Second.
then another motion
Motion
with
that-
HR.
I would move that we go with GovHR as the organization that does the study.
are we having a complete comp study done again?
No, it's like an upgrade, update.
Yeah, and that's what they provided the proposal for.
It's a full comp study, it's not any of the classification
Right.
study, it's just the new comp study to adjust it.
So expensive.
That's where the internal part of us cleaning up job descriptions and stuff would happen. Then we can fit it into whatever picture that new comp is.
Is this,
Full page.
so this would be,
Yeah, because if the departments make their adjustments while the compensation study is going on, the compensation study shouldn't be affected by that. It would just be a matter of reclassifying an employee. Let's just say if they're listed at the level 2 grade, and then but their roles and responsibilities bumped them up to a level 3, then you would just for January 1st that would be adjusted for that role, but it wouldn't affect the
okay, so,
compensation study.
Well, it could, depending on what they're comparing from other municipalities.
But are the
Duties.
roles and responsibilities that far off?
It could be.
Well, and then when we
So
know
it
what the
could-
number is, that'll be up to the council to decide if they want to maintain that number. They want to
Yes.
adjust it down because of the ability or inability to meet everybody else.
so are you proposing that do salary and benefits survey analysis? Or
Yeah.
$1,800?
No, it's 19.8.
The total for everything is 19,800.
Okay. So this would all be, okay, it's in the bottom.
They just put it all together, of what they estimated each of would take for them for time and cost.
So we'd be doing it for a complete,
Well, no, because we wouldn't be touching the classification.
when what?
We wouldn't touch the class, we wouldn't have them do the classification.
Okay, you said some department heads were not satisfied with their job description?
But that's the classification part, and we'll take care of that
Yeah,
internally.
we can do that internally.
Okay. So it actually $20,000. Is there money in the budget for that?
I think we had 50,000 in to do a complete study.
Okay. Everybody does realize it's $20,000, 19.8. Okay.
So you got two motions then.
I don't think we have a second for the other one.
I'll second,
Okay.
all of it.
Which one was the second one?
Going with HR.
Of HR.
Okay. Are they gonna be able to get it done in that time?
They said 90 days, so
How many?
90.
Okay. The first motion then is to do a comp study done by first meeting in January.
Right. No,
Okay.
we're tabling it until that meeting.
Tabling it. Well, how can they do the comp study for tabling it?
Well, they're gonna go ahead and you're gonna ask them to do some work.
Mhm.
For us to look at it again is when all the data's in.
Yeah, but we're
We're gonna
telling them to
authorize the
spend
study.
$20,000.
Yeah.
We're gonna authorize the study.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna
Okay,
authorize the
that's a
study.
motion, it's not table.
Well, no, the first part was to table, we were gonna table the discussion until January 1st, where we would bring all this data back for us to, it doesn't have to be that, but that's kind of like the timeline that they were suggesting would be feasible. So we're gonna commission the study and then bring it back as an issue for us to do either in December or January. You asked, or Ed asked, when would it be tabled to?
Right,
So I'm saying, let's table this discussion, let's do all the background and do the work necessary for us to bring it forward to vote again on it in say, January.
okay, well, actually what you're doing is move forward with the COM study, have it done by January.
Right.
Okay, because we're not tabling it then.
Not the comp study, no, but the discussion to adjust any of the compensation rates, grades.
Because it's an
It will have
agenda
to have
item,
a-
I think we have to either table it or say yes or no.
Right.
You have the authority to spend that money on
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, we start with this right away and make contact with HR. Could they have it done before January? Nice that if change and start January
Right.
1st. But you at least have to
It'll be closed.
still use the
Yeah.
date of January as being hit, however.
So
August
if
book
we
that it comes
shoot
in
for, so
before
if they were,
December.
if they were to execute a contract to get GovHR to do the compensation study, even by August 1st, it should be done by the end of November, which we could in theory review it in December if it's available, and hopefully be able to make a decision at that time to present to Common Council for January.
Okay, any further discussion?
So it's the tabling until either the November, December or January meeting, depending on when the data becomes available.
Okay, but we're not,
Table the
Tabling
discussion. You have to put
We're
the-
not gonna discuss it until we
But you
get
have
all
to
the
put the
facts.
I
discussion in the
understand
motion.
that.
So
But
we're gonna
you're-
table, we're
I
gonna
got it.
table the discussion that we're gonna have until December or January.
Not really tabling it, because we're all,
Well, we're not gonna
Encourage
discuss
them.
the results of the.
we're encouraging them to get it done.
We're not
Yeah.
tabling the project, we're tabling
Right.
the discussion. We're still moving on with the project.
Okay,
And
I have discussion in it.
all right, you seconded it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. You know, you had a motion,
I guess I would change it to proceed with the study through HR Gov USA.
okay, that's what. All right, is there a second to that motion? Alderman Berber seconded. So there's a motion to continue with the study for HR. Okay, motion made and seconded to continue study with HR. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Department of Administration updates.
Yes. So, we have a contract that we had settled with the police department, police union, and that will take us through next year, 2024. And what they're going to be doing, or what we are doing, is paying through 2022 and 2023. We had enough money in the budget to cover that, and that is secure as
So
of right now.
that's,
That's done.
Finished.
Yeah, I'm just providing
okay,
an
so it's
update.
not open, closed records anymore. What constituted, what was in the contract?
The only substantial change was going to a 3% over 3 years. So 333.
There was nothing else in the contract?
There were minor changes, nothing that stood out.
Okay, I mean, like what?
I don't actually have that with me.
Some of
Yeah, I
it is
didn't-
gonna be language to make it match with the other officers,
With the what?
to match with the other officers. Because
Other officers,
they
right.
aligned some things together so that it was the same. And some of it was that, I don't know that that was all of it, I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I think one of the pieces was to add a .25 to what constituted a full-time police officer. Those are, their days are 8.25.
I think we had any language there,
But
but I don't remember exactly what was in the agreement, but everything else had been agreed upon a year ago before we started talking about mediation and arbitration.
There wasn't anything with benefits.
Yeah,
No, yeah,
it was
none of that
only the
changed.
wages that were in
Nothing changed
question.
in terms of benefits, it was just salary retroactive to the beginning of 22, bring it into 23, and then into 24.
Right.
Because nothing had happened in terms of salary in 24.
And now the fire is starting?
Not yet.
When will
End of the
this-
year.
End of the year? So they're, I thought, or didn't think, but, they're not on the same contract schedule.
Other items that I've been trying to work on in my spare time is trying to find.
Do you have spare time?
No, I do not.
I'll have to talk to John about it.
Yeah, right. So I have asked for recommendations to incentivize the employees in addition to obviously pay, ways that we could make employees happier to work here. And I got a list from the police department. I can pass it around. I'm not sure what's feasible and what isn't, but I'm sorry?
Did you ask them for that?
No, they provided it. I had asked the department heads in our first and second meeting for brainstorming ideas of how to incentivize employees, and
Are our employees unhappy?
some are, yeah, some are unhappy.
Majority?
I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to, like I had said, I would like to put out that employee survey. I did send a draft over to Dana. I don't know if we've.
I have a draft, you have a draft, we haven't combined our drafts.
Okay. So
Who is this from?
the police department.
Can we get a copy of that
Yeah.
sent to us?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
shouldn't this be part of the negotiations?
No, this is a separate item that we were talking about.
I guess my question on this is, city police and fire on a quid pro quo basis, something for something. And that's always kind of blended in with pay and everything else. Generally, it's, you want something, you give up something. And if they come with a page full of likes, I guess, why are we doing any negotiating? I mean, it's, it's like coming up with a deal here, and then, well, no, we want, in addition, we want this benefits.
I guess I'm not sure what the list is, but if it applies to contractual issues, I can't see changing that unless it's going through negotiation. But if there's other kind of things we can do,
Well, in 24, actually probably a little bit earlier, there's going to be another contract negotiation. That should be brought up then.
if it actually is applying contract issues, I agree. If there's other things we can do,
Is it?
other suggestions,
So I can, one of them is besides increased pay, retention, and incentivization to work towards career advancement.
All right, so something like that, you work towards a career advancement, get an advancement, there's your here's your payoff. So why would you
They're not
incentivize
seeing it
that?
as riots. They're
sorry?
so they're not seeing it.
It's
is
not
why they're
being-
writing it.
yeah.
They're not. It's not being executed.
Realized.
Yeah. So when you have an employee that says, "I want to grow within a company," and yeah, that's an obvious. But if they're not actually seeing it happen, they're going to say, "Yeah, it needs to happen."
But do they do something and then they don't see it happen? Work towards a career. Again, I think we have to be very careful with that, and a wish list versus what our contractual obligations.
This is all employees. It's not just, this is their list of ideas, but I've asked the department heads to bring ideas for all employees. I think it's important to get employee buy-in and have them invested, and this is one of the ways that I think we can also do it in addition to paying well.
Are we
Or-
getting close to having problems with Act 10, violation of Act?
No, I'm not sure what you're looking at or thinking of.
Well, this is negotiating. You know, Act 10, and I'm not an expert on it, I think before you go too far on that, you better get a legal opinion of whether that is or could be construed as a violation of Act 10.
So I think what I think Dana and Kelly, please correct me if I'm wrong. Obtaining feedback from employees about their own engagement for the entity that they work for is a great way for an entity to reflect on its own performance and its own, authentic retention of its employees. It's not going to be compensation based. It's not going to necessarily be something that it can be assigned a monetary value, but it highlights the flaws of what is going on within the entity. So if there's not internal promotions happening, an employee is going to speak up in a survey. So
Yeah, but again, Act 10 has nothing to do with outside industry. It's a complete different deal. It's for public employees. And you can't, compare one to the other. They're different. And this stuff I would like to see a legal opinion to see if that is negotiating or is considered it.
I haven't seen the list yet, so I don't know if those are things just for the non-represented employees or whether they are for
But
union
even with
employees.
non-reps, I don't think you can, I'm not, that's why I'm saying get a legal opinion. I'm not
Do you
sure
have
what
anything-
the Act 10 says about non-reps. There's been a lot of lawsuits flying around lately, and I just would like to see less of them.
But we've had a pot for incentives to incentivize employees. We haven't been able to come up with a workable plan yet to make that happen. But we do need to look at some ways we can do whatever we can to attract and retain.
I understand and don't disagree with this. I'm just saying I feel we need a legal opinion because, this isn't an idea that somebody came up with. This is from an employee or employees or whatever saying, let's do that. Is that negotiating? And is that something we really should?
No, I don't think it is. I'm
But
sorry.
again, that's not a legal opinion. It's a
Dale.
whole different deal.
One of the things is, first and foremost, is we have no idea what that page does.
I do. I just read it.
Okay.
Well,
So I'd like everybody to take a peek at it.
I
and
agree
think
with
that
that.
we should discuss it going forward.
But again, the thing that's not brought up here is this is stuff coming from employees. That's what the Act, partially, Act 10 is a huge thing, but one of the things is negotiating with employees, which was outlawed. Can't do it.
You have a
Unless
problem
it's
if
police
you're
and fire.
mixing
Negotiating.
the representative
Make up
employees and
benefits.
non-representative employees.
What's that?
I think you can run into problems if you're mixing together representative employees and non-representative employees.
There is no non-reps. I mean, there is no representative employee. There is.
Police and
Unions?
What's that?
Police and
Fire and police.
Police and fire, they're completely out of,
But isn't that the list from
non-rep police.
Oh,
And this is
non-rep.
just their list. This isn't what I have in mind
Okay.
necessarily. This
Okay,
is
I
just their wish
misunderstood.
list in a perfect world. So that's why I didn't give it much consideration, because it is very specific to their department, and I am trying to do a greater reach. I am talking about things like a company, yeah, exactly.
Pizza
A
party.
company thing, like you bring in pizza and have lunch together. I'm talking about if you were going to further your career and get such and such certification, that the city will pay a certain portion of it, and you are locked into a agreement or what have you, that if you leave before such and such time, you have to pay X amount of dollars back or what have you. I'm talking about
Birthday program.
yes, like the feel-good things, not contract negotiated items.
It's
Okay.
still
I got mixed
negotiations.
up because I thought it was coming from the officer, but it came from the police department. But if
Yeah.
you have all non-represented employees, I think we have a lot of freedom
Yeah.
to
And I think
You know, you're
generate
not allowed
ideas.
a lot of freedom. That's the ones it covers. Police union and fire union are not covered by Act 10. Everybody else is. It
Well-
may not sound right and you may not like it, but that's pretty much what it is.
So could
All
I
I'm saying is get a legal opinion.
suggest that
I'm not saying, excuse me, I'm not saying it's wrong, it shouldn't be done. But once you start negotiating with employees, is that a violation of Act 10? That's, and once you go and ask them what they'd like and they write down what we'd like, is that a negotiation? And, you know, what's the legal opinion? You may not think it is, I may not think it is, but what is it legally? Alderman Holford and.
I was
Alderman
just
Barber.
going to suggest that either Dana or Kelly copy the list and your ideas and send an email or have a phone call with our labor council and just say, what are the limitations, if any, so
Yeah.
that if we pursue this, we know what we're doing.
Okay.
Alderman Barber.
I agree with Dale in the sense that some of that could be bordering, overlapping into some areas that we don't want to go into. But I think it's up to any reasonable employer to try to look for the programs that might sustain employment or retention that aren't contractual issues. I mean, we can come up with like say someone from DPW or a group say this, and this says group, and it's a program that we can see that is of benefit. We could implement it as a programmatic kind of availability for our employees, and not necessarily a contractual issue. We just see it as a value.
Contract has nothing to do with it.
What?
Contract has nothing.
I know, I agree with you there, but as
Negotiate.
a program to help all our employees, if it's doesn't take a lot of money to do it.
Well, yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. But, you know, when I've been hearing a lot of, well, common sense says type things. I don't believe laws are necessarily common sense. Some of them might be, but some of them may not be. And it's not really for us to determine. It's really for a legal question. It's a law. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that some of that stuff isn't good ideas or.
Once we get a list, we could run it by corp council and see if there is an infringement.
I agree with
I totally agree with that.
100%.
If this is gonna be an infringement upon Act 10, you should know that and drop it.
Right.
But if there's a program out there that doesn't, that makes people happy and wants them to stick around and be part of Franklin,
I think as long as we don't form a committee as such of employees to represent the whole group,
that's true.
then I think we're on pretty safe ground if we just generate
Again, I'm not a
ideas.
lawyer, but once they come to us and say, do this, or why don't you do this, is that negotiating?
No.
But again, you're giving your opinion. That's
That's
not
why
legal.
we'd get
Yeah,
corp counsel.
Yeah,
That's right.
I agree, we need legal counsel, but I've worked with non-union companies most of my life, and we had this, we would
Open
ask
forum.
employees, what are you interested in? As long as we didn't form a group that says, okay, now you're representing this group of employees, we were on okay ground.
I understand.
Because then you're actually virtually forming a union effect or a representative.
Like if they say, give us more money,
Yeah.
that's
That's
off
not-
the table.
But if
Right.
you're saying, yeah, we have a pizza party every once in a while, that's gonna help morale, things like that is,
So to that point, for an example that I had gotten, I had asked what, if anything, do we do as a employee appreciation Christmas sort of deal? And I was told that everybody pools together money to buy meat and what have you, and then they also bring a dish to pass. And then there are people that are invited outside of that then just come and they haven't paid. And, I'm getting the feeling that there's unhappy employees based off of even just that and the way that is handled. I know that there are people that are wondering, why can't we have a lousy party that's not coming out of our pockets?
Again, we have to take a look at the financial burden. How does that play into? Is it something that's an acceptable finance issue?
And equitable with all departments.
What's our total head count?
About 245-ish.
Be expensive.
Only if you eat 2 pizzas.
Or half a donut.
Well, I mean, it's clearly different between private enterprise and government. The boss can say, I'm going to spend $1,000 and we're going to do this. In the city, it's a little more difficult.
I think it's a reliable pursuing.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is there anything further?
Yeah, I also wanted to look into a couple of training options. I think that we could really use a standard training program like customer service or how to deal with conflict resolution. Something focused on just improving our skills in areas that we are hitting every day.
Employee training.
Yeah, but we don't have that. As of right now, we don't have that.
And problems. Customer service going to improve with this?
I mean, I would hope
We
so.
have some.
Yeah, I mean, we do, yeah.
There is complaints?
well, and plus
Or are they
conflict
coming from a
management.
certain place?
I don't know. I as an alderman, I get complaints that aren't directly related to the clerk's office, related to more of the service delivery areas when I get a complaint. So maybe it's not any one department. It could be multiple departments that could have this on site. It could be presented at maybe 7 different locations or 4 different locations
Right.
for the department.
What are
It'd
the
be training,
What are the
presentation.
supervisors doing about that?
Sounds like nothing.
Trying to put out a lot of other fires, I think.
Yeah.
Probably doing those jobs.
The department heads aren't doing anything? Is there?
Well, I mean, I guess, as a new employee, I have to question why we don't have a training program in place for anything, for any training.
Is
No,
most of our
for my
training done
role.
OJT?
No, I'm sorry?
Is most of our training done OJT right now?
Yeah.
I become a
Yeah.
dispatcher and then I get the training from the dispatch supervisor or employees.
Maybe
And
not.
is that
Not
inadequate?
exactly sure.
They have specific trainers over there. They have a lead dispatcher or they have people designated trainers. Same type of thing in most departments.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think something like conflict resolution makes sense, right? We're dealing with the public. And it would be, and typically you tend to hear from people that are unhappy. Not, if I'm happy, I'm not calling up City Hall and saying, hey, I just want you to know that I'm really happy and you're doing a great job. that just doesn't really happen. So I think it would really be helpful for everybody, even the people that have good skills, just to sharpen them, reminders, what have you, on how to diffuse a situation or how to resolve conflict, whether it's interdepartmental or with your customers, your shareholders, what have you.
Or your boss.
Right.
How do you approach
Right.
your boss? And then also supervisor management training.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, I'm sure there's some supervisors that have good skills in this area,
Right.
but my experience is there's a lot of them that do need some help in this area. An employee comes up with an idea and says, well, I'm not interested in. Well, that's, you talk about demotivating.
Yes, exactly.
An employee.
Right.
You know, it seems like everything keeps on going back to evaluations and kind of pay being linked to it somehow. And this is something that we've been trying to get done for 8, 9, 10 years and never got done. I'm not throwing any stones at anybody, it's just workload. But I think that would cure a lot of things. It would help with sick leave, help with that. It's a given that citizens should be treated with respect, and maybe part of it is that the supervisor should be stepping in and saying enough of this. If there's another way, that would be great too. But I just think that everything leads back to the evaluations.
Well,
And do we have a widespread problem? Is it a particular department that needs some help with their supervision? Would it be of any benefit for the employees to evaluate the supervisor setting?
probably, yeah. I mean,
Again, some kind of an attitude.
Engagement, yes, an employee engagement survey would answer all of these questions.
And that's
It
what
would
we're
talk
working
about,
on doing.
yeah, exactly. It would talk about the incentives and employee morale. It would talk about how is your relationship with your supervisor, how is your relationship with your coworkers, what else can we do to make you successful in your position. Training is going to be one of the number one things that they bring up, especially if you're coming in and say there is nothing.
Right.
So I had a couple of questions. For those that are assigned IT assets, does Franklin use Microsoft products, Google Suite? Which one is that? Microsoft. Microsoft offers free training for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher if you have that in your suite. So Microsoft already has all of the training needed for anyone who has an administrative capacity, that you can just go through their suite of training and assign it out. And that's something that doesn't cost the city anything, and it at least points them in the correct direction. Then there's a lot of other free resources online for conflict resolution, SMART goals, all the HR happy words for good employees.
Our EAP offers all that free too.
Yeah, so it's diving into that kind of stuff.
right.
Has very little cost, no overhead, but goes a long way with employee engagement.
Right, right, and that's what I'm seeing is completely outside of my experience. We have reviews that we don't do. So there's no interim review, there's no annual review. There's a merit increase that was approved in 2015, has not been put into motion. There's other policy changes that have been approved and not put out there. So these are, there's no real, for example, a new employee. There's no real onboarding. There's, here's your health and whatever insurance forms that I'd like you to fill out, and then we'll get this over to payroll. But there is no onboarding.
How about supervisor training?
There's no training. There's no reviews.
When you say there's no training, are you saying there's skills training, or are you saying training that needs such things as conflict resolution and things of that nature?
Both.
All of it.
There are no training programs that I have seen.
And for a supervisor or a manager to not have annualized training, you're waiting for a sexual harassment lawsuit, for a retaliation lawsuit, for anything. And one of the first things your counsel is going to say is, show me your training records. And if you have none, that's a huge risk.
There's no
huge
continuous
risk.
quality improvement training either.
No, well, there's no goal setting. So, I don't get an annual review. I don't know what I could be working towards. I don't know where my areas of weakness are, where my areas of strengths are. I don't know what the perception is outside of myself.
What we need
And
to
that's
do with
what's
our
happening with everybody.
what we need to do with our supervisors, provide them with tools to go ahead and do things properly. But also, one thing is, if I'm getting an annualized evaluation, what's happening the other 11 and a half months? My supervisor coming to me and saying, you need to create or correct this kind of skill or that kind of skill.
Well, so we don't have a PIP in place either. I mean, there's so many glaring misses in just overall how we are dealing with our employees. We have a timesheet that's put on an Excel, printed off, and walked over to payroll. We have the same person running reports for time off for everybody, their bank. These are things that nowadays, and since I was an employee of the Hartford for 16 years, and even prior to that with other employers, they were already doing this stuff online. They had where there were the ability to put in interim reviews, goal setting, feedback, soliciting feedback from your coworkers. There were opportunities to look into training that would be maybe just individual training. There'd be, as Sarah Lynn had said, there would be group annualized training. And these training things can be done in modules online. But there are so many pieces that we're not even touching.
So without getting too negative, I would say based on our staffing levels and current workload, what's our capacity to do these things? And you're talking,
assumption to
you're
echo that
talking,
is-
and you're talking training 240 plus people. That's going to take that, and I'm not against it, but I'm just saying how you're taking time out of their productive time or asking them to do things on off time. I mean, I'm not opposed to any of it. I'm just saying there's a lot of things to consider.
Well,
Who's going to set it up and who's going to maintain it? And is it going to be a mandatory thing? Sexual harassment, things of that nature should be mandatory done.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that
we
in
have
the event-
obligations that we aren't meeting.
In the event that there is a suit that is presented against us, we can show that there has been the training, has been completed, the person signed it, so on and so forth. Are we going to also allow this individuals, when we do mandatory training, to be able to do those at work? Or are they going to be required to do it at home? Some companies do it at home. Most companies say that you use work time to complete those things. So I think it's a whole basket full of things that we're opening up right now, and just little by little, making sure that the employee is safe, respected, and they're provided with the tools.
Alderman Barber and then Dana.
Well, we're not a Fortune 500, a Fortune 300, a Fortune 200. But we can definitely put ourselves in contention for being one of the best places to work and belonging. And I think you have to start off with a program that can be implemented. I mean, the main reason that we don't have merit pay is because the supervisors don't know how to do it. never been a training or conscientious training program to get them all involved with it so that it's uniform across all the departments. Some of the departments didn't even want to buy into it initially. So it's got to be something that gets promoted internally with, say, us in personnel and taken to council and said, this is what we want to see across the board. And I think, there's many areas. I don't want to be overwhelmed by the multitude of possibilities. But at the same time, I think we have to start somewhere, and maybe that merit thing is where to go. It seems to be that's the main glitch right now in terms of why we couldn't do it is because obviously the manpower's not there. So it's got to be something that we would recommend take before the council, and then let them decide how they're going to do it, what they want to do with it, and fund it. Because training is some cost to it. I mean, there's a lot of free stuff, but then is it uniform? It's the same message that they're getting. So there's a lot of things that have to be. If everybody gets the same message across the entire employee supervisor of the city, then we know that they've gotten that. And it is workable. It should be workable.
And
I was just going to say, I think we're getting into this a lot further than what a Department of Administration update is, and not an item on our agenda to be discussing.
again,
The specific topic isn't listed as an agenda item, so I think it's way beyond just a discussion.
But I'm interested to know what administration thinks.
Well, I agree, but
I mean,
I
I
just
look
don't know
at
if
this
we
as
put it on for a
sharing
longer
thoughts.
discussion.
I'm
Okay.
kind of look at this as sharing thoughts and maybe looking for future discussion.
Dan is right, we're kind of going over open meetings, we better back off, but at least Kelly, you got an idea where everybody's coming from. It'd be a great thing to come back with this and some ideas that you think would be good. Did you have any other thoughts?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm going to kick it over to Dana for a staffing review.
Well, I also was going to give you the termination information that you were
What's
looking.
that?
I was going to give you the termination information that you were looking for if you still want that today.
Yeah,
I'll just hand out the report and people can look at it and if they have any questions.
Sure. That's good to know.
It basically just shows the 135 terminations that we had in the last 5.5 years and a little synopsis of some of the reasons.
oh, okay.
Because you had asked for this the last meeting.
We've had 135 terminations.
Yep. Almost half were retirements, but
Oh, well, that we didn't
any
terminate
reason
them.
for, correct,
Employment was terminated.
yes.
We didn't do a termination of that.
All right.
Oh,
Or you short one?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
59 retirees. One deceased.
I don't think
Well,
I don't think this is way out of whack.
Do you want one too, so you don't ask me tomorrow?
I'm not liking the deceased.
Neither does the deceased like the deceased.
The deceased doesn't feel anything about their situation.
Terminated for performance, was that police department?
It was different departments. It wasn't just
All
one,
of them?
the whole city.
Okay.
I mean, that's high, 14. But we're also talking 2018, so 5 years. 14
Is it?
people,
I don't know.
2 or 3 per year.
I think the most speaking one is your 31% of the miscellaneous, which those are going to be your voluntary resignations for people finding better opportunities elsewhere. That, and then retirement being 43% of the cause for your attrition that's high. It's unavoidable, but it's high. So it just means that the workforce is very shifted towards age demographics of retiring age. So
Well-
it just means that you're going to have to start replenishing.
One thing you gotta remember though is police and fire are 55, and not 65. So
53.
That
that's
affects
gonna
it
have
too.
that
Yeah.
figure.
We've replenished a lot of people in police and a lot of people in DPW. So in those two areas, I'm hoping we don't have a lot of retirement in the next 2 years. Because most of the older people eligible are already gone.
How many employees are there presently?
About 245.
Okay, so if you multiply 245 by, is this 10 years?
5.5.
Five, that's 1,200, 225. Kind of per year, or per 5 years you had, per year, a little bit weird. You've had a lot of employees. 245 times 5 years and 135 left. I don't know if that's that great.
Well, the retiree number,
Pardon?
the retiree number is pretty high.
But again,
You're saying on
police
average,
and fire leave at, or can and do leave at 55.
Yeah.
That's,
No, I'm saying it shouldn't be there, but if
Yeah.
you're looking at, is this total under 35 normal? A lot of companies don't have 43% of the fire.
well, if you look at, you have 250 employees, and you say that we've had retirees of 60 for 5 years, that's 11 retirees per year out of 250 employees. If you
Right.
want to look at it as an average.
right,
And I think that's where you were going, what would be the
Right.
average number? Like, 42 would be 8
So I
in the
just,
5 years? Or over,
I think, yeah. So calculating attrition over 5 years, I removed retirement from this calculation whatsoever because it's even worse with them in there. Franklin runs a 31% attrition rate for their positions, which is extremely high.
Mm-hmm. And I think this goes back to some of the things that I was saying that don't exist and haven't existed. And it might seem
We
like
could
it's a lot.
Dive into a much deeper conversation about that.
Right,
absolutely.
but it might seem like it's a lot, but to Alderman Barber's point, it has to start somewhere. And these are things that should have been in place the entire time. Lots of these things should have existed and should have been followed.
Yeah, and the point about there isn't time for the training, well,
You make time.
Yeah,
I mean,
if
there's
you
not
don't
time
have-
for a lot of stuff.
if you don't
Yeah.
have the training, you're never gonna have the time. By doing the training, you free up time eventually.
And the training should yield improved efficiency across the workforce so that after completing the training, now you are better equipped and more efficient at performing your job duties, thus making you a more improved employee and trickle-down effect to, yeah, right.
As long as that's the
Alderman, did you have
expectation.
something to say?
If you set the expectation
That's what- yeah.
and then follow up on it, absolutely.
thank you, Dana, this is good.
Yeah.
Any further comments? Alderman, did you have some? Okay. All right. Kelly, do you have any more? That's it? Okay. Next scheduled meeting is August 21st. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Staffing report? Is there anything to staffing report there?
Oh, you're right. Staffing report?
I got a couple things to add. So I took the police officer position off of here because I thought we had them all filled. The Police and Fire Commission approved 4 new police officers that will be starting July 31st and August 1st, but I just found out today that one of them did not pass their medical evaluation, so it looks like we'll still have one more opening that I'll have to put back on. The administrative assistant and the building inspector positions have been filled, as this mentioned. But we did find out that we will be again looking for a director of inspection, as our current one will be leaving in a couple months.
And the reason for that?
With personal reason. Not anything to do with his work here.
But he did have a recommendation for
Yes.
his position to promote from within. and train over the course of time from now until he leaves. He'd like to be able to have this person.
The administrative assistant is where, which area?
Engineering,
Engineering.
and they will also be backup. They'll be engineering and sewer and
planning.
water, and also backup over at DPW and in planning. So that those two positions both start on July 31st. And the other one that will also be looking to start doing succession planning is our building maintenance superintendent, is also going to be retiring January 3rd.
And he also had a recommendation for someone to take.
Internal.
Internal.
The dispatcher and sewer and water tech continue to be our difficult ones to fill. We're now going to have 3 sewer and water tech openings because we had 2 retirements and one of our current employees is taking the promotion to police officer. That is a good reason that we're losing one of them.
Does this have anything to do with the WRA?
WRS?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a budget. Or taking advantage of stuff or anything.
I don't think so. None that I know of right now. The 3 dispatcher positions that we have open right now, 2 of them are because 2 of our current employees have already announced that they're going to retire January 3rd. We actually have 2 other dispatchers that are eligible to retire at any time. So we could have anywhere from 3 to 5 openings out of a total of 14 positions.
Okay.
All right.
Door keeps swinging.
We did go about 8 years with no dispatcher openings years ago. They all seem to come at one time.
Feast or famine, right?
We're gonna have to hire young guys like Tom.
And you
Oh,
can sit
young?
at the console next to him.
Okay, next scheduled meeting is August 21st. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second?
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.